we're still having challenges, especially in the communities, in the rural areas where the young people that sign, the older people, the older generation are also not able to access these things or are not aware because of the maybe lack of information, or also the issues that I earlier said, issues of infrastructure, issues of supply, distributing the clean energy in those remote areas. So, why should youth lead? I think I'm going to end my presentation with this. Why should youth lead? I think youth should lead because we are tech fluency. We are very conversant with the technology aspect. We're able to spread awareness. We're able to um, make something known through the technology aspect. So if I go on social media and I'm able to advocate for clean cooking, if I am able to share information on clean cooking, I think it's going to get to so many people. It's going to reach out to so many young people, and they will be able to learn and also understand the importance of clean cooking. um, we also have the community trust. I always say that every time, even when an older person is trying to access something on the phone, it would be as simple as just checking their data bundle. It would be as simple as just researching on where to purchase something. They the community usually have trust on young people. They'll always call a young person and say, "Hey, please come and help me with something on my phone. Please come and help me with something." So we do have the trust in the technology aspect, and we can be able to drive change by also convincing our fellow youths in the remote areas, our fellow community partners, that we should this traditional way to the clean cooking way. And we also have the partnership agility. I spoke earlier that just by being in this space on International Youth Day, taking our time, um, an initiative driven by young people, you could see the collaboration and the urgency and the solidarity that young people have in order to um, fight for various issues in their community, which today we're also speaking on. So these are just my references, but I just wanted to end by saying we're not just the future, but we are the connectors of today. So just by being in this space and talking about various issues on clean energy, on climate justice, how it affects our environment, and how we need to transition from clean cooking, I think we are not just talking about future, but we're also connecting and we're also learning from each other and just trying to fight for Africa in general. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Bridget Peary, for this great presentation. Just to remind all the participants that if you have questions for the speakers, kindly note them down and you'll be given a time to ask your questions. Now I'll call upon the next speaker, who is El Haji Musa. I see that there's a hand from someone. Welcome. There was a hand from Mr. Emmanuel. Mr. Emmanuel, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned, we can carry on. Thank you.
I think he can type at the chat box if it's a concern. So as we save time, then all the questions, please, we will ask to the last part. We'll have a Q&A side for we to chat and do a panel talk. So if it's an urgent matter, Mr. Emmanuel, you can share to the chat. We do have a place a place here to send a chat. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We can proceed now. Our next speaker is Mr. Elhaji Musa, who will give us a presentation on building cross-continental alliances. Mr. Elhaji Musa is a dynamic changemaker and policy advocate at Action Aid Senegal, where he serves as the Education Program Officer and Tax Justice Thematic Lead. He focuses on revolutionizing education financing through progressive taxation and gender-responsive public services. As the Youth Global Platforms Coordinator, he empowers young Africans to become leaders in climate justice, gender-based violence prevention, and humanitarian response. With a background in human and social sciences and a global perspective gained from extensive travel, he champions a vision of a borderless Africa driven by youth empowerment, human rights, and collective action. Welcome, Mr. Elhaji Musa, to give your presentation. Remember, you have 15 minutes to present. And to the participants, remember that you can note down your questions and you'll be given a time to ask your questions. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Musa.
Asante sana, my dear sister. Thank you very much and good morning, everyone. I really want to invite us to change the way we are doing things, because I believe this is not only a meeting, this is not only a conference or a panel. I believe this is an in-house conversation. I believe this is a conversation that we are having between brothers and sisters in Africa and beyond Africa. So I will be discussing with you today, not doing a full presentation. So I want us to really close our eyes for a moment and imagine a continent without borders. Let's just imagine a continent without borders. Let's just imagine a continent, not a line drawn on a map by the colonial power, not with no checkpoint and visas that tell us where we can and cannot go. I want us to imagine an Africa where the language that we speak, the culture that we carry, and the dreams that we hold do not divide us, but they unite us. And this is where I want our imagination as well to go, is to imagine an Africa not as she has so often been portrayed by others, as a land of problems, but as we know her, as a land of rich, as a land rich in talent, as a land overflowing with imagination, as a land where the spirit of our ancestors still whispers, rising and claiming our destiny. And today, we are here as Africans from the continent and from the diaspora and from every corners of the globe, because I believe we share one truth, and that truth is that we are stronger together. We believe that in Africa, we should develop the mindset of being locally rooted and proud of the heritage, proud of our tradition, proud of the ways we know, proud of how we are globally connected and how we are shaping the world and being shaped by it. And let us be clear, that future that we are talking about will not wait for someone, will not wait for someone else to build for us. It is waiting for us, and the work begins now. And this is a vision. I want to invite us as well to think of a vision that has been standing on the shoulders of giants, not only for us. We are not the first to have this dream. We have Kwame Nkrumah, we have Thomas Sankara, we have Winnie Mandela, Wangari Maathai, the list can go. But these giants, they gave us a vision of an Africa that is united, an Africa that is free and in solidarity, and an Africa where no nation prospers alone, but where every nation's strength lifts the whole continent. And they knew that the chain of colonialism and neo-colonialism could only be broken if we stood together. And they taught us that unity is not just a political project, but it's also a spiritual one. And but today, my brothers and sisters, we have something that our forebear never had. We have the tool to be locally rooted and globally connected. Because the solution can be imagined today in Dakar, Senegal, after a good bowl of jollof rice for the one who knows Senegal, West Africa. That same solution can be refined in Seattle, Washington, in the US, with the amazing community of leaders of Harambe House Global. And the same solution can be tested in Nairobi around a good Nyama Choma, funded in Kampala, Uganda around the One Ugali, and promoted in Arusha, Tanzania at Mahali Cafe with a hot masala chai, all in real time. That is the power of our generation. That is the promise of a borderless Africa. And this is already happening. When I speak of a vision, of this vision, I am not only talking about a fantasy. I am talking about what is already happening across our four corners of this continent. If you go to West Africa and Ghana, there is a team of young engineers that are designing a smart biomass stove built with local materials. And the result is that 60% less household smoke and more than 200 jobs that are created in this community. You move West Africa, you go to North Africa in Morocco. A network of rural women is producing solar cookers. Over 1,500 homes now cook without cutting trees, protecting forests and improving family health. You move Northern Africa, you come to East Africa in Kenya, there are young software developers that created a platform that measures the household carbon footprint and connect them to carbon credit markets, turning climate action into incomes. And then you go to South Africa, we have researchers, entrepreneurs, and diaspora members that are partnering with rural communities to introduce high efficiency stove, cutting household energy cost by half. And each of these stories tell us something powerful. We do not need to wait for outside solutions. The solutions are already in our hands. And I want to do this. Listen, our heritage is strong, and Africa has been the cradle of innovation. Do not let anyone tell you or let you believe that Africa is behind. This is the land where writing was born. From the hieroglyph in Kemet of the G script in Ethiopia, where mathematics flourished in the library of Timbuktu in Mali, where surgeons in East Africa performed advanced cataract operations centuries even before Europe. And even today, we continue to shape the future. Look at the mobile payment system in Kenya, like the M-Pesa, like the medical delivery drones in Rwanda, the smart irrigation system in the Sahel. Africa is just not the hair of a great past, but Africa is also the laboratory of the future. And then there is our diaspora, which I call our extended family, which is scattered across the globe. We can name the African American, the Caribbean, the Afro Latin, the Europeans. We are millions carrying skills, resources, and influence in every field. But the diaspora should not be seen as a source of remittance. It is a source of strategic power. Because imagine if every historical Black college in the university and universities in the United States adopted or partnered with a school in Africa. Imagine if every Caribbean community invested in an energy cooperative in the continent, or if every African in the diaspora became an ambassador for local solutions wherever they live. The combination of there is a power in the combination of local innovation and diaspora reach that would make us unstoppable. And let's now talk about the heart of this transformation, the transformation that we are dreaming and we are talking about. Let's now talk the heart of it. And let me be clear. The Africa we are building must be an Africa for everyone. Women who carry the heaviest burden of traditional cooking methods, risking their health every day, must be at the center of clean energy solution. The young people, the most creative, the most daring, the most ready to take risks, must be the architect of our innovation. And no one must be left behind, not the rural communities, not people with disabilities, not those whose voices have been silenced for too long. Because there is a Borderless Africa Exchange program that is right now coming as a vehicle for change. And this is why today's session is extremely important. This is why today's activity matters, because the Borderless Africa Exchange program should not be another conference or another initiative. It should be a bridge between the continent and its diaspora. It should be a bridge between young innovators and global partners. It should be a bridge that links local knowledges and global opportunities. And it will create a space for exchange, for skills transfer, for co-creation, so that clean cooking and other sustainable solutions are not just ideas in a report, but a reality, like in people's home every day. And this program is about turning conversation into collaboration and collaboration into change. And there, my brothers and sisters, I want to just shift to a call to action, to a call to a collective understanding, a collective mission. we must, what must we do in front of this situation? I believe that we must build permanent bridges between the continent and its diaspora. We must build those bridges that last beyond even like what we used to see. We must as well prioritize skills transfer so every innovation is owned, mastered, and adapted locally. We must as well create strong Pan-African coalitions with clear measurable goals. We must identify the different institutions, the different structure, the different organization owned or built or created by Africans abroad, connect and partner with them and get into a sharing collective actions. And above all, we must tell our own stories. Because if we do not, others will, and they will not tell them the way we would. And that's the reality. And my brothers and sisters, we have inherited a dream that has been passed down by the visionary of our past, watered by the struggle of our people, and carried in the heart of every African child. Today, we have the tools, the network, and the will to make that dream real. And the Africa we want, an Africa without border, an Africa locally rooted and globally connected, an Africa united by global Black solidarity. This is not an utopia. This is a choice. And today, here in this call, in this meeting with all of you and each one of you, we choose it. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to share and discuss with you as my brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Musa. I can see that a lot of people were impressed with your presentation. So now we'll go to the next agenda item, which is now the question and answer session. So this is where you have your chance to ask your questions, and we'll start off with the first presentation that we had by Mr. David Nyaribi on leveraging digital platforms for climate advocacy. So now you're welcome to ask your questions to him, your suggestions, and so on. Welcome to you all. Yes, proceed, Mr. Derek.
Okay, thank you for the speakers. It was a nice presentation. So I had also some questions. So I think I can start, then I will leave the colleagues also to ask. So I think it can be a simple question to the first speaker, that beyond raising awareness, what do you think maybe what are the other effective digital tools or platforms young people can use to move from advocacy to measurable policy influence, and how can they track the impact apart from raising awareness? What can other digital platform, or what can we do in the digital platforms in influencing policy?
Thank you very much. Sheila, I am wondering how you want us to go about it. Do I receive all the questions or I answer them as they come? Either way, I am happy.
I think it's okay if you answer them as they come.
Okay.
So
thank you very much, Derek, for that
question. Yeah.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes, proceed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Derek, for that question. I want to begin by thanking my sister, Bridget, for her presentation, and also thank my brother Musa for their presentation, for his presentation, I mean. So the two presentations actually are linked to the presentation that I made earlier, because these are like three aspects. Bridget talks about clean cooking, and then Musa highlights the aspect of how we need to actualize the alliances. So I am really, really grateful and happy for your presentations as well. The question of just beyond awareness, Derek, yes, the reason why awareness is really, really amplified in the beginning, because it's ultimately the beginning point. We can't do much, we can't do anything unless we are aware of what is happening. Taking an example of the climate crisis that we are in, it started some years ago, but then it took a bit of time for people, especially within the global south, to accept. Of course, with the aided peddling of narratives from the global north, it took a bit of time for us to appreciate that there is actually a crisis happening. While we could still graze our animals, we could still grow our crops comfortably, our rivers were not quickly affected. We had, of course, challenges of floods and drought, but they were not as intensive as they are now. So, but when they have been intensified, is when now we have started to appreciate that there's actually a challenge with the climate crisis, and then we need to influence policy. So it begins with awareness, to accept our reality, that this is where we are. When you know where you are, then you can now begin to see how you can take the journey to where you want to go. So of course, when we, like I started with saying that my vision for Africa is a united, wealthy, healthy, and literate continent, it means that there is where the continent has been in the past and possibly even now, things we need to work on. One of them is disunity. So the unity aspect addresses that. The other is diseases, some organically generated from the continent, but others brought in from out through experiments and so on. So we must address the aspect of disease, so be healthy as a continent. The other is the aspect of poverty of the mind, but also material poverty, where our sister highlighted and showed the picture where people are cooking in traditional methods. Musa has also highlighted where we are not able to afford the different amenities of life. Yet, we always talk about the paradox of Africa. Africa is blessed, while the African people seem to be poor and seem to be cursed. So, the aspect of poverty being addressed by wealth. But then literacy, not just being in the ability to read and write, but Alvin Toffler said, if the illiterates of this particular century will not be those who cannot only just read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So these learning systems need to be created. So a continent that is united, wealthy, healthy, and literate. So it begins with awareness. So awareness is very, very important, but we cannot just settle at awareness. After being aware and recognizing the challenges that we have, then we must use this technology to go to the next level. Awareness needs to lead to action, needs to lead to policy influencing. And there are very many ways through which we can use the digital platforms and the leveraging digital abilities to be able to influence policy. One thing that technology does is simplifies and amplifies our work. So what would take us a lot of time to do, technology helps us to, for example, I talked about mobilizing and building a community. Because if you're going to influence policy, you need a critical mass, you need a backing. So certainly it is important that we are able to mobilize, and we are able to mobilize through the digital platforms, which I mentioned earlier, WhatsApp, or Facebook, we can mobilize. And to show the power that these digital platforms have, some countries' governments have shut them down because of the power that these digital platforms have. So we must be able to use them. And even where they have been restricted, we must positively circumvent them. And that calls for further digital training and knowing how to be able to circumvent restrictions and blockages that are happening. So certainly, in a nutshell, and as I conclude, advocacy for policy change, advocacy for organizing and momentum building must happen first in the digital. Yes, we must also have the physical spaces and physical engagements, but where we don't have them, we must start with the digital, which seem to be like low-hanging fruits. And there are several. In Uganda, Facebook was restricted, but then that enhanced young people getting onto X. So I don't know whether X will also be restricted, but like Musa has said, young people cannot be stopped. We cannot be stopped, because if you restrict Facebook, then we are going to enhance our abilities for X. If you restrict X now, like it's happened in Tanzania, Tanzanian youth are now embracing Instagram and embracing all these others that they had not ventured into. So there is just a variety, and it is our time to thrive with this. So we must be able to take action. There is no excuse. We have absolutely no excuse. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. I believe there was a hand raised from Deogracious Gerald. Deogracious Gerald, welcome to ask your question. Okay, we can proceed. Seems like he is not here anymore. Any other question for Mr. David Nyaribi? All right, we can proceed. I guess we can proceed to the questions for the presentation by Ms. Bridget Oscar Piri. Any questions on Ms. Bridget Oscar Piri's presentation? Her presentation was on tech-driven innovation and partnerships. Any questions regarding her presentation? Comments? All right. No questions or comments. Any questions or comments on the last presentation that we had, presented by Mr. El Haji Musa, Building Cross-Continental Alliances? Questions, comments? Welcome, Ms. Leoma. James Sir.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I just had a question. I know in the presentation that Musa shared, he talked a lot about like what it looks like on a global lens for all of us to kind of work together and build together. And so I appreciate the shout out for Harambe House Global. I am in Seattle, Washington. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here. But I really wanted to engage with this presentation, and I'm glad I did. But I guess I'm just wondering, what are ways that the African diaspora can be activated in the U.S.? Like obviously, there's a lot of global work that we want to do. And as a Black American who spent most of my 20s in Africa, like it's been really, I guess, challenging trying to figure out ways that we can connect the communities here to the communities in Africa. And I know social media is like a huge part of that. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm just curious to hear ideas about what that looks like for a borderless Africa on the physical sense, obviously, but also like on a mental, spiritual, and social sense of like building together and working together. Um, yeah.
Thank you for that question, Mr. El Haji Musa.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Sar, for that question. And I believe it's a question that really comes on the right time, because we have to agree in something. There is a power into coming together as African, as Black people, as Black community, as as diaspora and African resident. And there are so many great initiatives that are ongoing right now in the diaspora. I have the chance to go and to visit a lot of countries, and I'm seeing so many great things. I remember the first time I saw East African Community Services in the US, bringing together like East African people, creating opportunities, learning programs, supporting them to get a job. I'm like, whoa, how like East African community is shining in the US. And I bet none of these countries or these organizations